everyone. Welcome to the 84th episode of the Cyberpunk 2077 Community Podcast. We have a very interesting show today, and we have a full house again. Finally, we've got LastKnownMeal. Welcome back. How was your time off last week?
Hello, it's good to be actually back. I do apologize for not actually coming last week. I had some private things to do, but it's actually great to be back to talk a bit about Cyberpunk.
And we also have Madqueen with us.
Greetings, Earthlings.
And we have TheNeonArcade.
Did we started already? I'm here.
Yes.
I'm here. I'm ready. I'm here.
So we have some interesting things have been kind of happening in the world of Cyberpunk over the last couple of days here. We still, of course, have that the slight delay, so everybody knows about that. We're okay. It looks like things are on track, and what?
Black screen.
Yeah, I know. That's what I said. I'm missing my thingy. It's not showing up, and I'm gonna fix that in a bit here. But I can't fix it when I'm talking.
That was your thingy. You said you were missing your crap. So no. I didn't want to inquire more about it.
I'm going to fix it, guys. Just hold on. But yes, yeah. So, anyways,
there is a slight delay always on YouTube.
Yeah, they're going to take. We are going to take some seconds to see whatever is happening on screen.
Yeah. Well, I'm not showing anything on screen right at the moment, so it's fine.
Shall we start with some subject while you try to fix it?
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead. I was asking. So we've there's a little bit of news. We, of course, the delay, and everybody knows about that. But other than that, we've got some interesting news. Couple of things. We had an interesting interview. Do we want to start with the interview? LastKnown, you know the most about the interview, and the guy asked I don't know. I kind of want to berate him a little bit for it, but I'm also kind of like, well, maybe he just didn't know. But you fill us in on how that interview went, and the probably the stupidest question I've ever heard when it comes to Cyberpunk 2077.
Well, don't be that harsh on people. I mean,
it was a really stupid question. I mean,
yeah, it was a really stupid question. But I mean, that's the problem with journalists that have to cover plenty of games. They don't have time to learn about the background of everything. That's why it's always important to have the information to people that it's specialized. Mm-hmm. But it's a thing that happened. It's not worse than this Mike Poundstone thing.
Yeah, that was worse. That was much worse.
This is true. Yeah.
Poundstone.
Okay, here we go. I have fixed the thing. Some files got moved around, and the pathing wasn't correct. So now it's correct. So we're good to go. But yeah, no. So. Well, let's hit the things. I don't want to hammer him too much. It was obviously a ridiculously stupid question. The guy obviously did very, very little research for the actual interview. He was just kind of coasting it, so we won't drag him too much. But what was the other things that they kind of talked about in the podcast, or sorry, in the interview, not podcast?
Yeah. So some of the things they talked about. This is an article from Collider. So some of the things they had talked about was obviously some of the things we already know, like the inspiration behind Cyberpunk 2077, which is, of course, the pen and paper role-playing game, then Akira, Streets of Fire, etc., etc. There are also some questions regarding Johnny Silverhand, maybe referring to that, but yeah, there was a question asked if Johnny Silverhand was created specifically for Keanu Reeves. So yeah, that's from the source books. It's not really. Regarding other things, we do actually learn. I mean, it's kind of confirmed that the short stories with Johnny Silverhand history are going to be indeed short stories. And some of the things that was kind of confirmed here was the Arasaka Riot, which is a different event than the end of the Fourth Corporate War. So through those short stories, I guess we will learn more stuff about important characters.
Can I interrupt you? Sorry to interrupt you here, but I understood a completely different thing from the interview. I thought that Patrick Mills was talking about about short stories in the context of the original books. Not that they will be short stories inside the video game, because in the pen and paper game they are short stories.
Mm-hmm.
They are short adventures more than stories, never fade away, and the Attack to the Arasaka Towers.
But they can make them the same, like generally just talk about the history of Johnny in a form of a short story.
Oh,
But
what I meant is that I didn't understand that he meant that this will be shown inside the video game in the same format as a short story, because, well, I believe it's going to be a long story.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course, but as a throwback, it's gonna be a shorter in a sense. In short bit, not short, but bits and pieces of Johnny's past. I understood it like that.
Some context flashbacks.
Yeah.
Right? I think we've seen even little bits and pieces of that.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of this is going to be the game and how much is going to be the flashback. Like small flashbacks, yes, we saw Johnny in the hammer with Carrie and Al Cunningham, but also the next scene he was holding a gun and it wasn't first person. So is that the short flashback or it's part of the game? It sounds like it's part of the game.
I don't know about that.
Well, and I mean, it depends
I'm not
entirely.
sure about
Well, he has a physical body in that one, right?
Well, that happens in 2013, not in 2077.
Yeah, so I'm saying it.
Yeah.
So it's a flashback, but it's a short flashback just for the player to learn a little bit about it. All the flashbacks are going to be part that we are going to be able to play, obviously on Rails.
Oh, I see.
This is a story
Yeah.
already
Yeah.
produced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that was what I was going to mention, is that we don't know exactly how this is going to stand up, right? Like we're not 100% positive on the way that they're going to be giving us this kind of data. Is it going to be in the form of a direct flashback in the middle of being passed out from the first time we get, quote unquote, killed? Is it going to be something that happens when we plug the chip in? Is it going to be something that's going to happen after we spend a long time talking to the
Johnny, yeah.
Johnny, in his digital form? Is it like, where exactly is it going to come in? Is it going to be a brain dance, that kind of stuff? And so I think we're getting.
Well, we have an
bit
example.
more, yeah, go ahead.
We have an example on The Witcher 3, because there are parts where instead of explaining what happened with Ciri, then we go to be Ciri, and this story was on Rails because it's a story that we can't choose what happens.
Yeah, that's a good point. Could be
Yeah.
similar.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. So it could be that, because if they just give us a cutscene in a sense of that entire event, I mean, it would be okay, but us playing as Johnny for a bit would be kind of cool. Just for a bit, Shoot a couple of people, you talk to Alt maybe some characters, because they already have models of Carrie both in the 2020 and 2077 in 2013. So I'm guessing there might be, talk with the characters from the perspective of Johnny, and then maybe you meet him later. Well, maybe you will meet him later in 2077. So it could be that. I don't know.
And it'll probably still be from the perspective of Johnny in a way, because he's going to be in your head, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is going to be interesting if as he's connected directly through the chip, if we can exchange memories with Silverhand.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that'll be interesting, because I wonder what happens if you're like playing, through any of the romantic times that he's having with, Cunningham, and how that'll affect a player, especially if the player is a female V. That might be interesting. Little different, maybe. I don't know.
Well, yeah. If the player is into women or not into women, it's going to be different. But as this is not something that you select as a as a characteristic of the player. You choose it with the decisions you take. So the game is not going to know how you want to play the game in this sense. If you want to be straight, be lesbian, is not known.
Yeah, and
so the game cannot react to that.
But that's an interesting dichotomy that you have from the aspect of the player. So that's kind of cool. So because I like it when they kind of turn things on its head like that. It gives some interesting feedback to the experience. So all right. What else was there that he covered before we talk about the dumb one.
Oh, okay. Let me just quickly. So yeah, as we already know regarding DLC plans, something similar to The Witcher. Of course, one thing which Patrick said, which was nice. Let me just find it. He likes to set a marker at the end of the other part of the city, and he likes to just go there on foot and take the, well, I guess the encounters and stories he finds while going to that location. So that's a fun little detail. And yeah, that's about it regarding. Yeah, that's about it. Everything else is pretty much what we know.
Yeah. So then we get to the gaff, and here's the gaff, the gaff, the mistake, the maybe I don't know, maybe he thought he was being smart, maybe whatever, maybe it was an honest mistake, but he then asks, so was the character of Johnny Silverhand written specifically for Keanu Reeves? You know, because Keanu
Well,
Reeves.
to be fair, he does give the other side of the coin. Or was the character first created and then adapted once Keanu Reeves signed on?
Yeah,
So
which
it's not as
Yeah.
stupid as
it's not as stupid, but it's like asking, is water wet? It's like you should already know this because of the field that you're in and the questions that you're asking. It's
Okay, just
Maybe.
relax.
I know, I know.
Let's give him some trust. Maybe he knew that the character is based on, but one thing is the past and the different thing is the future.
maybe.
So maybe in the future you are writing a type of character that is more in line with Keanu Reeves than with the source material.
So
Maybe it's just a rhetorical question, right? He already knew, and he was just giving
Perhaps.
him the options.
I actually watched through the podcast. I mean that one question was questionable, but everything else was fine.
all right. Well,
Yeah.
just so everybody knows, yes, Keanu Reeves, was about 20, between probably I'm going to guess between 23 and 25, during the time period that Mike Pondsmith was actually creating Cyberpunk and writing these stories, and he was not a well-known actor at that point in time at all. He was a very small fellow, and it wasn't until well over a year after the original Cyberpunk 2020 was published and was released that he actually starred in his first big show, which was Bill and Ted's the first Bill and Ted movie. So on the face, it's kind of like a ridiculous question. That's what I've been getting at. It's kind of a ridiculous question because it's like, well, you should know that the character was written. It's like J.R.R. Martin, did he write, the main character of the first book, Ted Stark? Did he write, Stark's character for, Sean Bean? It's like, no. No, these books are really old. They've been around for a while. Like the first one, I mean, sure, maybe, I guess, like there might have been, like you could maybe postulate it if you were crazy, but yeah. So
Saib, I can see that you miss or endings of the podcast trashing Bethesda because we need to trash someone, or the vein in your forehead is going to explode.
It's just
I feel
I'm
more
very critical.
comfortable-
I'm very critical of other journalists and people who, again, it's like he should have phrased it a little bit better. But I know everybody's not perfect. I'm not demanding perfection. I'm just laughing at the absurdity of the question.
I feel more comfortable trashing companies than individuals, okay? Because
True.
individuals have feelings, companies do not. They are legal entities.
Well, one individual I'm not going to trash today is the new head, or sorry, the creative director behind the multiplayer game. This is super exciting news. So we'll chat a little bit about him. If you've been wondering, what's been happening with multiplayer. First, let's kind of give a quick history lesson. They came out with kind of like an outline of what they wanted the game to be like originally, and there was some information that had gotten itself out in a number of different ways, and there was some official questions and like goals that they had set even during the very first Gamescom when they announced that they were working on the Cyberpunk universe. This was a very long time ago, and some of the ideas and concepts have kind of been completely reset as far as we know, and we don't really know exactly where they're kind of going from there. But this history is really important for knowing where, now that we know who's in charge of this perspective, where this is probably going to end up going, and probably where it's going to end up evolve, like what kind of experience is going to end up evolving to. So does anybody remember what exactly they were hoping for in that initial stuff? I know we came up with it a long time ago, but do you guys, any of you guys want to kind of talk
Well,
about that?
the only official thing we knew about it is one of the investors' conference. The CEO of CD Projekt, Adam Kaczynski, talked a little bit about it, but the only usable thing he said is that it wasn't going to be a battle royale.
That was
And
much further after. I'm talking like way back on the initial release, the initial Gamescom, because they actually had
well, that really didn't matter because
Yeah.
apparently they trashed everything and changed everything.
Yes,
So
yeah,
Well,
and that's what I'm
let's
talking
not
about.
confuse people by making them go in
They said it's
mentally
going to be
into
true.
directions.
They said it's going to have the true lore ties, right? It's not
Yeah.
just going to be some sort of afterthought multiplayer with nothing to do with the story
With
or
this,
the history.
yes,
or
exactly. And this is what I was wanting to get at, was this, and then was also some of the, so initially they kind of wanted to have a seamless multiplayer. They really wanted to have the story impact the multiplayer experience. This was their plan from the get-go. So what we can see from here is that whilst obviously they scrapped a lot of the initial conceptual stuff, they were going to have social hubs, they were going to have a couple other things that was reported. And again, there's video and picture evidence of this floating around on the internet now, but this was their previous, like the first gen conceptual stuff that never really, like, we know that they scrapped a lot of that stuff. They may have scrapped the work that the physical work that they did on it, like the coding and stuff like that, but I don't think that they scrapped the conceptual stuff. And so this is kind of what I want to point out. Go ahead.
It's something that it's not clear to me is how long has been he working in the multiplayer, because it is announced like he was just hired, but well, I mean, if they intend to release the multiplayer 1 year after the release of Cyberpunk 2077, I believe that
Well, he
should
wasn't
have
just
been working.
he wasn't just hired. It's been
No,
since the
yeah.
beginning of the year. It's been
Yeah.
since January.
Yeah.
It's just this has come to light at this point.
Yes.
I don't think anybody noticed it until, shout out to Night City Life. Night City Life did last week.
And I'm going to give you a full, deep, in-depth rundown of who Gabe. I'm going to butcher his last name here, but it's Amatangelo.
Amatangelo, I think it is.
Amatangelo. Yes,
Amatangelo,
probably
yeah.
there's. And I apologize for this. I'm terrible at pronouncing a lot of last names. Not, it's pretty normal. So you can mock me for that, because I'm honestly terrible at that. Didn't read or speak until I was 9, so that
Okay.
factors into it. Sorry, go ahead.
But because you didn't have anything to say.
No, because I was
Because maybe
saving.
it's for that.
I was saving it up for now when I'm doing these
Making up for lost
podcasts.
time.
So I'm going to give you guys I'm going to do a full breakdown of him. I do know several people that have worked with him. I have worked with some people that have also worked with him, and I've heard a significant number of stories from him. First of all, the most important thing about him, he has a glorious, glorious goatee. Just absolutely beautiful. It is one of the best goatees you will ever see on a man. Definitely
Which
not.
is
like
obviously
an
a detail that we need to know to learn about the
Absolutely.
quality of his job.
Absolutely. So, all right. So, like I was saying, with the conceptual stuff, with the concepts, I'm going to give you kind of like the early perspective that they were kind of planning and pitching for, and that was, again, there's some really old video footage or picture footage and stuff hanging around. Basically, they wanted to, as I said before, focus on multiplayer groups and content that was tied to a narrative story. So, whether you're running that narrative story over and over and over again with different friends, or whether you can GM an experience, these are things that we don't know how they were going to implement it, but knowing who has been brought into this, we can start to get a better picture of his style of leadership, his style of creative thought, his processes, and then I think we can take that, we can look at what they were planning on doing, what they had originally wanted to do, and we know that they had to scale that back for the sake of time and getting the game out on time, and then creating a separate game for the actual multiplayer. We take that and we can, I think at this point, we can kind of say we know the direction that they're headed in, and we know a lot of things that they're not going to have. Right away, we can confirm that this concept of it being a battle royale is completely off the table, because most battle royales have no concept of story, right? They have very little depth of role play. They can have it, but it's a user created experience, not the game or developer created stuff, right? So like people role play in Arma and in Grand Theft Auto all the time. There's role play servers where people take it very, very seriously. There's very little tools given to them by the actual game developers to actually do that, right? So that's obviously you as a community can always do whatever you want, and that's great, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's what the developers had intended, right? So we're going to look at what I believe their intentions are with this. So, all right. So way back in 2000, while he was in college still, he got an internship at New Line Cinema for a couple of months. Then he went over to Tribeca, I believe, Productions for another couple months. Then he went and did some trainee work over at a talent agency, and then he co-founded a company where he was the creative producer. From there, he moved into Mythic Entertainment. This was an EA game, or an EA company, sorry, that he was largely on the team that made Warhammer the MMO. Now, for a lot of people who say Warhammer, he was behind Warhammer as at first a content designer, content design lead, expansion team lead, and then a lead designer. You got to be kidding me. That was one of the worst MMOs to ever exist. And I would agree with you that it was one of the worst MMOs to ever exist. However, several people that I know within the industry all confirm that he was raising serious issues about the exact same issues that the community ended up, bombing the game on. So this guy is somebody who identifies and understands the issues that the players understand and have issue with, and he was actively trying to change them. But he was not a team lead throughout this. He was, at most, he was the expansion team lead, and then he fell into the lead team designer. But he did not have the ability throughout 2005 up until 2008 to really affect as very much change there. So not somebody who's responsible for a bad game design, somebody who was actively calling for needing to alter some of the game design and fix it. He then moved over as a creative director over to EA, where he worked on the BioWare project of Star Wars, the SWTOR game, the SWTOR MMO, and that went from 2010 to about 2015. He was one of the lead people, and he was also one of the key architects behind the concept of the flashpoints. For people who did play that MMO, most of them have a really good memory of the flashpoints. These were multiplayer experiences, a dungeon that you completed in 30 minutes to an hour, that there were role play moments within that affected the story and actually affected the actual dungeon run, and sometimes would affect the bosses that you encountered based on your decisions of doing light side choices or dark side choices. And he created the system that system ran on, as well as creating the concept of having a PvP. He created the concept of Hutball, where they would just take players from both factions, mix them together, and then force them to play the game together. So you were working and playing with people that you'd normally be fighting against. And that these are all brilliant ideas and concepts that, when it was put out originally, worked really, really well and were some of the best content that the game had to offer. And EA never, ever, ever expanded on these things. They never improved upon these things, and they added very little new content down the road. So this is, again, I don't feel that this is his fault for not expanding on this. I would put the ball solidly in EA's court of they got the product, they shipped it, and then they were like, don't need to improve it if it ain't broke, so we'll just soak the money in here. And since then they've put very, 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 very little money and effort into maintaining and making that game a better experience. It's a lot of just rehashed old content now. So again, not really him being at fault there for that, but him definitely being kind of a key mind behind creating these interactive, multiplayer, story-driven experiences. Either of you guys ever played the game? SWTOR?
No.
Okay. So,
But I
yeah.
did play Breach. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you talk about it, I'll pitch it.
Yeah, so now we're on to Breach now. This is 2015 to 2019. He helped to co-found a new studio called QC Games. You played Breach, right, LastKnown?
Actually had a chance to play it. I don't know if that was alpha or beta.
It was the
Actually,
beta, yeah.
applied
Yeah.
randomly to try it out, and he actually now works for CDPR. But
Mm-hmm.
my overall experience of that beta was actually really nice. You were probably gonna go into that, but it was a 4v1 kind of a game where one person takes the control of a game master, dungeon master, however you want to call him, and then the 4 players have to finish PvE moments. So that was fun, actually.
Yeah, and I think this was a big concept. There was Evolve, there was Shadow. What was the BioWare one? Shadow. Crap. I should know this off the top of my head. I'm so sorry, I don't. But it was another BioWare game. It was the same thing. It was like 5v1 or 4v1 or something like that. And they scrapped that one. And he had been working on that project there. And then he moved over and they created QC Games where they continued the concept of like the 4v1, but then Evolve came out and completely trashed the concept. Like they really dropped the ball on that one. Like, just terrible. And because of that, I think that game concept really did kind of end up falling down the wayside. And I think that there are better... I think the way that Evolve did it was horrendous. And I think the way that... BioWare was kind of aiming to do it. There was some potential there, but I think they ran into some natural barriers because of the concept of how they were trying to implement it. They were trying to implement basically an experience that's just a giant like PvP or sorry, an action-y type thing, and there wasn't very much time to like stop and get into story and whatnot. And what we see now, which is an incredibly popular experience, is the tabletop D&D experiences. There's how many YouTube channels are have full casts of people doing full adventures and epics that they're getting millions and millions of views on constantly. And this is that same experience where it's like 5 people versus essentially a game master. And those are incredibly popular, but for some reason the corporate version of it just never got off the ground with Evolve and a bunch of these other games. So I think that Breach was getting close to kind of finding a bunch of this stuff. But when I looked into kind of what happened there, I believe that it basically boiled down to they ran out of money. And they just, because of how badly Evolve had failed, a bunch of investors looked at their concept and said, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. We're going to invest in some other stuff. And
yeah, that was kind of my experience as
Yeah.
well. Just hearing news about the game. And it's funny, though, that you mention it. It's like, how much can one game kind of throw a bad light at a certain game mode? It's like now when people hear multiplayer, they're like, oh, God, no.
Right.
It's because of all the companies who made multiplayer into what it is, basically a cash cow. And before, and I remember reading about Fallout, when Fallout 3 came out, there were some rumors that Fallout multiplayer is going to come out. People were ecstatic. They were happy. And then now it's a whole different story. So that was
that is a long story in and of itself. The multiplayer that was the multiplayer game, the MMO that was supposed to come out shortly after Fallout 3 came out. That a huge story. I've gone into it a number of times on our podcast, but it's basically it was a travesty. There was a beautiful game that got to late alpha stage, early beta stage, and it was really interesting, really unique, had so many good core concepts to it, and then the whole thing was due to a lawsuit, was packaged up, put into a vault, and then lit on fire, basically. And that's how Bethesda and ZeniMax, via ZeniMax suing, because it was ZeniMax, it wasn't the people at Bethesda. ZeniMax sued and got the full right access to it, and then they released their own multiplayer version with the concepts that they had basically stolen from this game and implemented extraordinarily poorly. And this is now the game that we this is what led to 76. And I remember at the time that there were people who came into the forums for Interplay and were mocking them because they lost the case. And they were like, I can't wait for Bethesda's going to do a job that you would never have been able to do. And they're going to make the greatest multiplayer Fallout version ever. And it's just like, it's so funny because like irony and, you know, just irony of ironies is because we got what we got. So anyways, that was short digressing, but that's a very interesting story. We should go into that fully one day. But yeah, I think with QC Games and with what Gabe was trying to do was it just didn't hit. They just didn't have the financial support to do it, and their investments essentially dried up, and it sucked. From what I read from a bunch of videos I saw, the game really had a good potential, but they just didn't have enough. Like the engine was a little lacking, and they just didn't have the money for advertising, and so the game kind of unceremoniously was unreleased, and then the company folded up shop and shut down. Since that happened, that was so they closed up shop in around April 2019. It was only essentially he sat around and did some consulting work from May to December, and then in January he joined the team over at CD Projekt Red in Wrocław. Well, sorry, how do you pronounce that city?
Wrocław.
Wrocław.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wrocław.
And he popped in over there, and we don't know at what point, whether that was an immediate thing or whether that was an upgrade that he got later on down the road. We don't know. That's one of the questions that I really want to ask. I've already sent some feelers out. But he then was, you know, he is now, as of today, he is the creative director for the multiplayer project. So what does this mean for the multiplayer Cyberpunk 2077 experience?
Whoa. And I thought I was a fangirl when I talk about Pondsmith.
So, for those of you who didn't realize, Madqueen disappeared to grab a drink or whatever it was and take care of some kitties, and this whole time we've gotten very, very little, you know, ahead there. So, yes, welcome back.
Yeah, I was listening to everything.
Yeah. So where does that leave us? What are we left with as far as the multiplayer experience that we're looking at getting? From his record, I can guarantee you that I think what we're going to see is we're going to see a multiplayer, heavily focused story multiplayer experience that incorporates some reusable content to kind of like create the world that's interesting, but we may be getting that GM experience as well. I wouldn't guarantee it, but it is something that he clearly showed some interest in doing before, and he clearly has a vision for it, and I'm thinking that that's what they want to do. So what are your guys' thoughts? Do you think that on both of those concepts, it being a heavily story version of the multiplayer experience and or having that GM experience there as well? What do you think about those ideas?
I think, yeah. Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
I just wanted to mention that CDPR has also partnered with Digital Escapes. I think that was in early 2018, and they do multiplayer asset creation and stuff like that. So that's been a partnership that they've had for a while, and they worked on games like Dying Light, Dead Rising, Mass Effect. So they're also at play as well. So maybe some crossover between them and Gabe would be something that they would be aiming to do, right? Something that they've done in the past. They've done the Dying Light what was it called? Become the Zombie mode or something like that, which was again 4v1.
Mm-hmm.
So some element of the multiplayer could have some asymmetrical multiplayer components to it. I don't think that's the end all be all, but yeah, that's just interesting to note.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
when I think about multiplayer, I think about progression system, because that's what keeps people engaged. When you get stuff, like when you earn stuff, when you increase your whatever level, in some forms of MMO, it's loot. So whatever it is, it needs to have some sort of a progression. So if it's 4v1,
Well, I
if
don't
it's gonna be,
know.
yeah.
You could
One of
have
the
like little.
top games right now is Among Us, and that's the only progression that happens there is how much you start to distrust your friends and learn how good of liars and backstabbers they are.
But that's the thing. That's the thing. Every experience with Among Us is essentially different. You either play with different people or whatever. So I'm thinking this particular
So
concept
That's
is
more of a
what.
social phenomenon, anyways, right?
Yeah.
true,
It's more.
true, but that social phenomenon has like I really think that has sticking power more so now than ever before because of just how popular like the D&D has and D&D types, you know, Cyberpunk and Pathfinder and
Yeah.
all those games. This experience of the tabletop experience, especially during this whole shutdown lockdown phase, has really really exploded. And I mean, if I mean he's a forward thinker on this kind of content to begin with, I think I think he's just getting fuel for the fire
How would
for
how
this
would how would
concept.
a GM mode even work in a
Well,
for-
have you played Divinity Original Sin 2 any multiplayer where there's a GM experience there?
No, I haven't.
It is for a game that was like, you know, built on a decent engine, not a great engine, but a decent engine. It was a phenomenally good experience. And with the Baldur's Gate 3 now, they are upgrading a lot of those systems and creating more and more tools for it. It's not out yet. The GM experience isn't out yet, but it is something that they're working on. And I think that we'll see that in about a year's time come to fruition. Hopefully, maybe it might take another year after that. But that should put it in about the same line, and it's the same kind of thought patterns coming from a lot of leading people in the industry right now is that they are seeing the value of this social experience that I do think there is a progression system to be had there.
Um, I
Go ahead.
just wanna, yeah, I just wanna say one thing, which I want to say. The social aspect is okay. That's the whole point of an MMO or a multiplayer, is that social aspect because you play. But in terms of progression, I meant if they do decide to do that thing, and you mentioned tools, I mean, if they give you a set maps that you can go through multiple times, even with a game master or whatever, it can get boring. So in terms of progression, I was thinking if they do that, they have to have some sort of a map creation system in that side so people can create their own stories. Or on the other hand, they need to have some sort of a loot in a sense that you get and you progress your character in those sense. But yes, the social aspect is definitely important, as you said. That's the core idea of any pen and paper game, is to play with people, is to experience the story with people and I guess their own decisions.
So I mean, Madqueen, what do you think? Or are you? Oh,
Yeah, I think that I have too many wishes for them to come true.
right. Well, I think we all
Because,
have.
well, I mean, there's a difference. There's a difference between you and me. I play pen and paper games so much that I don't know how is it that I don't have the body shape of a book right now. So obviously, I have some hopes. I mean, I have some hopes about the multiplayer. If I started to explain all them, I just don't. I rather thinking that it's impossible, technically speaking, and then being surprised. Because translating, there have been attempts in the past, but translating the real spirit of a pen and paper game to a video game is something that I've never seen. Because I mean, even if with regards to game mechanics, well, first the explosion of RPGs on video games, and I mean original RPGs, first person, single players. Then in multiplayer, trying to recreate the spirit of pen and paper games, but the spirit goes beyond to game mechanics, goes to sharing the experience that it goes beyond any kind of co-op that I've seen so far. And that's the hopes that I have for the multiplayer. But I understand that it's technically impossible and requires a magic that nobody has seen so far.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I have you played again? Have you played the Divinity Original Sin 2 experience?
not much. And
Because
I know that people love it, but
it was close, but because it was within the it's in the IPN universe of the Divinity universe, it didn't have as many tools built in and concepts like cemented. Whereas like D&D does have those, right? Like, you know, that's one of the founding pillars of that concept. So I think if you were to look at that from that perspective, I think you'd see that that's probably a much better system, and that I think we're getting to the point where that tech is becoming more and more possible. But you're right, we haven't seen it done remotely well at this moment.
I've never seen a game in which the co-op, the cooperation between the players is at the same level than any tabletop game.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
And this is technically difficult.
Oh, yes, very difficult, right? Just quickly,
And not technically, and also artistically, because you need to create the quests in a way that you need this to be a thing. I mean, I've never seen it before, and I don't want to put my hopes in seeing it because this has technical complications that, as I don't exactly know how to build it technically, I don't know if it's possible. I believe it's not.
All right, so Too Tall, I want to get these super chats in. Too Tall, it said sent us $5 and said, for talking about glorious goatees. So yes, we have another goatee fan here. The importance of a good goatee, and especially a really good one. I mean, you know, it's beautiful. I'm not biased at all in the slightest. I haven't had like, you know, a goatee for pretty much all my entire adult life. I definitely not. Yeah, I'm not biased. And then Alexander Pavolsky says, Cyber Love for the Gang sent us €2, not pounds, €2. Thank you so much, both of you guys. It's really awesome. Thank you again for all the support, for all the likes. Thank you guys, and hit that like button because it really does help us with the algorithm and all that fun stuff. So sorry, continuing on. I think it's getting close, and if anybody I think could pull off at least maybe not that full experience of that GM, but just pull off a multiplayer that has far more story and far more of a reason for people to, you know, role play that experience. It's also, I think it's easier for you to ask gamers, you know, modern day gamers. I think it's easier for them easier for you to ask them to role play a street kid or a punk or a nomad or a corpo than I think it's easier for you to ask them to role play as, you know, a druid, a druid centaur from some kind of, you know, other universe, right? So I think there is some like definite positivity that gives them some access to trying to introduce that role play mode a little bit more. Would be interesting to see where they take that.
Well, there is a thing that I would like to say about building pen and paper experiences, and there's always this typical joke, because as a game director you create a game and then your players destroy it because they do something that you didn't forecast.
Yeah.
And you have to, you know, redo the game to adapt to your players. This is, I mean, the level of ramifications of this is something that, well, not at its full extent, is something that CD Projekt Red intends to do in the single player. But now imagine how it can multiply this level of ramification if trying to do the same in a co-op, because they are my firefight ideas with yours, with Neon's, with LastKnownMeals, and how can you incorporate that to a story in a way that the story can rebuild itself depending on on what are your actions. In the sense of a video game, I don't know if this is possible to have some sort of how is it called when it's automatically generated content? The word in English?
Procedural?
Sorry?
Procedurally
Yeah,
generated?
yeah.
Yes, and we are used to this in a technical sense when it comes to create with an algorithm, create backgrounds and scenery and things like that. But what if we could create stories with the same tools? I don't know if I am explaining myself in here. In a way that possibilities, I mean, it's like if you had an artificial intelligence being the game director of a digital game.
Yeah.
And the game was building itself depending on what direction did you and your team decide to take. I don't know if artificial intelligences are that developed in gaming, but that would be very interesting. That finding a way to generate automatically, because I'm capable of saying this word in English, of generating automatically, like we generate assets, visual assets for the game, generate story assets for the game. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, it could technically have unlimited amount of ideas for a story, in a sense, if you're saying that.
Yeah, I think you're bound by technology at this point for something like that, right?
Yeah, that would be cool, though.
Maybe in a couple years, but
Well, let me pop in here with another super chat from Adam N. Thank you so much. This time, 4.99 pounds. What are your opinions on influencers as characters in 2077? I'm worried that it will ruin immersion. So, I don't think that we'll have that problem, because I don't think they're playing themselves. I think they're playing general characters within the universe.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are pretty decent at their voice work. So I don't think we're going to have any of the... I don't think we're going to have that Elon Musk situation that they had in Rick and Morty, where his voice lines were... I mean, it was funny, but he didn't, like, deliver them with passion. He delivered them as himself, right? So... yeah.
Well, to be completely honest, in the exception of Alana and Dr. Disrespect, I had to be explained who the rest are. So I don't think that I'll have a problem with immersion, because I won't be seeing them, because I don't know who they are.
yeah, most are in posters and stuff anyways. They're not actual characters. They're just their likeness has been used in some of the branding and whatever.
Yeah, we're. I'm still waiting for my call from them to add me to the game. I'm sure it's coming at some point. I'm sure it's coming. You know, it's...
Well, I'm sure that the artificial intelligence of Delament Taxis was inspired on you.
Yeah, actually, I think they may have probably already put me in there. I'm either that the specialized, like, gold-plated Mr. Stud, or perhaps I'm one of the vending machines. I'm not really sure which, but probably.
Oh, the vending machine is already taken.
Is it?
Yeah.
Darn. Maybe
Sorry,
maybe a doorbell, maybe a doorbell or something like that.
Your Adam Smasher's Sorry.
The man with the perfect... Sorry.
Okay. Please go on, LastKnownMeal.
I'm done. Just please.
Juicebox says you're Adam Smasher's Mr. Stud.
Ooh. That's a big role.
That is a big
that
role.
was huge. He's big indeed.
A friend of the... Actually, I'm going to mention this now just because it actually kind of ties in a little bit. We had on Des Mephisto on the channel a couple of... I think it was a couple months ago now. He's a WoW streamer, and we had him pop in here to talk. He's very, very excited for that. He's well known as a speedrunner, and an autism advocate on Twitch. He just got partnership, and in World of Warcraft they just named an item after him, and gave him a special item that was named after him, designed for the class that he plays a lot. And so that's really cool, and I got to commend studios for doing that. Of course, we'd love to be able to see way more people do this kind of stuff more often, but it is nice to see that the devs are actually more interested and more connected with doing this kind of stuff, because it would usually always be something super hidden, like super hidden, and you wouldn't be able to really know it from the get go. But it's nice that we're seeing more and more of this kind of stuff. So yeah,
Didn't they do something for Wreckful?
Yes, they did.
Something
Yes, they did. They added Wreckful's character into the game as an actual rogue trainer, and somebody that you can go see. You can also do an emote at her, and she will emote back. And some people were like, "Why did they add Wreckful's character in? Wreckful was a guy. Why did they add his character in as a girl?" And it's like, well, Wreckful only played as a girl in the game, so that's why he's in that perspective. And I think that's brilliant. I think that's absolutely brilliant, and I think that's really it's really nice. Actually, I really like that. So
Yeah, that was a nice gesture.
it was
Definitely,
super
yeah.
nice gesture, and that's pretty cool. And this whole thing with Des Mephisto is really good too. So yeah, check him out if you guys haven't. We're still working on a new podcast with him, between me and him. So doing something that's kind of geared towards the autistic community. So super cool. Not cemented in yet, but we're working on it. So anyways, couple more questions in the chat. Please send them in.
Fritz
Mhm.
Musterland has the commercial for you. The triple stud. Mr. Stud out of this league.
You should be in just a goatee commercial or something, since you're so in love with goatees.
I'm just saying that they're nice things, and they're beautiful, and they're not like a full beard. It's like full beard. It's like ugh, it's
Hey, what's
it's
wrong
just
with that?
everywhere all the time, right? I like something more sophisticated, and if you're ever gonna be an evil villain, I mean, a goatee is kind of a requirement, right? So
I tried to
We
pull
have
it
a
up
Valencia
once. didn't
graphics in
work.
the chat. Hello, thanks for joining. Do you want to go to the merchandising bit?
Sure,
change
sure,
the-
yeah.
Yeah.
We can go in that direction. If anybody has any questions or comments about what they think about the multiplayer, or your guesses as to what the multiplayer will be like, please send them in now, and we will mention them. No matter how crazy they are, shoot us with your concept ideas for the multiplayer.
Yeah, but please don't base them all on Mr. Stud, please. I was gonna say about the merchant that is so ironic and so funny how Cyberpunk is supposed to be a criticism and a parody of consumerism, and now CD Projekt Red is milking the IP to hell. I mean, milking the hell out of it. We have a lot of merchandise around the game, and the game that is the cornerstone of all this is non-existent at this point. Yeah, I mean, I think that soon we're going to have the same jokes that we had back in the day with the shirts of Che Guevara, and commercializing something that is supposed to be against commercialization. It's funny. It's hilarious, actually.
Oh, Juicebox brings up a brilliant idea. What if Adam Smasher's Mr. Stud is fully voiced? And I think that we definitely need a character in the game that has a fully voiced Mr. Stud as well. And so you're just walking down the street and you hear, "Hey man, stop making those comments," and you hear like a voice that's much lower and quieter going, "Hey man, shut the blankety blank up." I was trying really hard not to swear. "Shut the blankety blank up. I'll say whatever I want to say." And you're just like, what the hell? Who's that?
And the voice is muffled.
Well,
It's
a
like,
little muffled, yeah. Like.
But they say it in a tiny voice, or
Yeah, well, or maybe a deep baritone voice. Hey man, you look pretty awesome. Want to grab a drink later? It's like
it reminds me. It reminds me of this weapon in Borderlands 2 that was constantly criticizing you.
right.
You shoot like an idiot.
And does anybody remember Neverwinter Nights, the original Neverwinter Nights? You had a talking sword that you could pick up, and the sword would like when you were killing like a dwarf, it's like, hey, let's cut its beard off once it's dead. And you killed something gross or slimy, it was like, yuck! Why do you make me taste this stuff? Oh man, it was so funny. Great concept, and something that I've kind of like taken to heart for writing. But yeah, great concept.
Benji
was a good
Smith says, "How about the DLC where you're a cop in Night City and you try to clean it up like a Dirty Harry?" Well, Benji, to avoid confusions, DLC are small pieces of content and they are for free. And big pieces of content with story are expansions, no DLCs. And someone later says, if you're a cop in Night City, you might die in 5 minutes. Well, no, actually, people in Night City more or less respects the police, and not because they can gun you down, but because cops are bad for business, which is basically what everybody's worried about. So yes, a corrupt cop, and like Dirty Harry, no, a corrupt cop. It would be more Night City-ish. Unless they want to bring back some important character that had the spirit like Hammerman or one of those.
Benji Smith, this is an interesting concept that you did raise, though. Now, mind you, it would be an expansion, not necessarily a DLC, but we don't know if the expansions will actually feature V. It could be that they feature other characters and other experiences. And I personally would really like the idea of, getting that Psycho Squad experience. Like, I really think, like, maybe you start out the expansion as just a regular person who ends up going psycho, and then you get drafted into the Psycho Squad after you get caught, and all of the story that happens within that. I think that's maybe pretty cool as a baseline concept. But yeah. And then we got more Mr. Stud questions. If they have animations for cyberware implementation, does this mean that we will have Mr. Stud and Midnight Lady implant animations as well? It depends. I mean, we don't know exactly where they've come down on this. We know that there's some hot coffee scenes and stuff, and we don't know how graphic and far they go as far as the visual concept, or if there's a mini game with it. Maybe you gotta do a little bit of a rhythm game. Maybe you got to do a little bit of a question and answer game to hit things off properly. I don't know. We'll see. It's and if there's not, I'm sure there'll be a lot of mods that fill that in. Yeah. Now, V needs to be expanded. So Juan says V needs to be expanded throughout the entirety of the whole game. This is true, and I think we're going to definitely get this. And yes, Juicebox agrees with me. He'd like somewhat of a Cyberpsycho, like the girl from the first teaser reveal. And 100%, like that's really where I get that concept from, that idea from.
I think a lot of people wanted that for the multiplayer. I saw a lot of comments to have because the 4v, we were talking about the 4v1 element of multiplayer, that would play cool into the max stack, right? You have 4 officers and you track down a
right? Brilliant idea. A really solid concept that I think would be quite interesting. And that it wouldn't just be you playing as a tactical officer. You'd have like the ability to like command like other troops or bots or whatever in the area too. So and then the one Cyberpsycho is like they're trying to do really, you think about it as the star system in the Grand Theft Auto type games or the APB Reloaded game, where it's like if you're going crazy, you're trying to cause as much collateral damage before the cops get you, so to speak, and it slowly like ramps up and ramps up and ramps up, and then your job as the good guys, so to speak, is to like bring them down before they hit that that upper status, or before they run out the clock or whatever. And the same thing was done in Division. There was a very similar concept there for Division 1 and 2, and I mean, that really like fueled good chunks of the game play experience for multiplayer.
Hmm.
I think this is, especially if they were to add some kind of like story mechanics or role play mechanics in there too, that might be like hyper interesting too. So yeah, yeah, that's a solid concept. Yeah, good call on that one. I like that.
Yeah, but with all the delays and everything, I don't expect multiplayer for at least 2 years, to be honest.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not like 1 year. Yeah, that would be great, but
Hmm.
uh,
I'd love to know more because they do have the prototypes, right?
Hmm.
So maybe
Hmm.
once I think they have multiple actually. So do they know what direction that they're going really? They know maybe they're a little bit more focused on what direction, but do they know the final kind of last branch that they're gonna take towards something? I'm not sure.
yeah,
Maybe Gabe has been brought on to help.
Yeah. Well, and that's really where we're interested in seeing where this is going, because the what he can bring to the experience, what he can bring um, to the overall like design team is this experience that he's focused on that kind of stuff. So if he manages to bring it in like that, I mean, that's a really good thing.
yeah, yeah. We'll see though. We'll see.
Hmm.
I think right now everything is focused on the single player.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah, yeah. Right
people are
now,
asking about the next Night City wires. Do we have any maybe predictions on when? I'd imagine just because of the delay, they pushed
yeah.
things back maybe a couple weeks.
I suspect that we'll
Mm.
probably get it after the Thanksgiving weekend. You think?
Yeah, maybe before. What Thanksgiving
May,
weekend is 23rd, right?
yeah,
Is
Yeah.
the Sorry, the 26th? Is it the 26th? Something like that. Anyways,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's
I think we could possibly get it before.
Yeah, it's possible to get it before, but I think they could maybe like that, fourth, fifth, sixth. That would be a great time to drop it too. Just because
That's
that is that lull time right before, like right after all the crazy stuff happens on in around the holidays, and then as you're going into the next set of holidays, there is a bit of a lull there. So that would be a great time for it. But I think you're right. I think the 20th is also a good time for it because that's right before, in and around the 20th as well. So
true.
like obviously that'd be like the 19th or whatever. So
Yeah, that would help with the trending of the game before it drops, right? If you
mhm.
put it between the first and the fourth or something like that, that's a really nice window for a big content drop, I think.
Yeah.
So maybe you're right.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see though. If they want to actually have Night City Wire soon, they'll have to announce it next week, maybe at the end
Yeah,
of the
Mhm.
yeah.
week.
And so we're getting information on expansions before launch, right?
Well,
Hmm. Yeah.
that's still we like. I mean, I'm not certain
Except
about that.
they
I would think that that would be a little bit weird because depending on how much information you're giving, you do kind of like confirm certain things about the story depending on what info you drop. So the
I
most I think they
mean,
could do is like locational. I think maybe.
what they had for Blood and Wine and Hearts of Stone, I believe they had the cover image with the logo, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And they had just a small summary, 2 sentences basically.
You could just have a logo teaser as well, right? Just with the name of the.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be anything super fancy.
Yeah. But what they do say, though, what they do say is that they stated straight away that Hearts of Stone is going to be a smaller expansion, in a sense, and Blood and Wine is going to be the bigger expansion, giving you another world. That
Hmm.
Yeah.
that we knew that. So I think they're going to do the same thing with Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and there was also Season Pass, I believe, straight after the Witcher 3 came out, so you can get. I mean, that's Season Pass. That where you
So
get all of the
the rest of the content for free, pretty
I
much.
mean, yeah, you get both expansions for a certain amount of money. That
Right. Right.
bundle stuff,
Not
yeah,
for free. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
Looking
see.
forward to that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that's the last thing personally that I would want to know.
Hmm.
If I was a regular consumer, I'd have gone dark at this point because they're really showing a lot of stuff that's not necessarily spoilery, but that I'd want
Hmm.
to discover for myself the first
mm,
time going into it. So
True. True. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Alfred in the chat, absolutely. Just check out the podcast either like before, but basically I gave a full. I don't want to go through it again because it is a lot of info on the multiplayer director, and he's the creative right now. He's the creative director. There may be some like shifts and whatever after the game goes live, but I kind of doubt it because I suspect at this point that the direction for the multiplayer is kind of more or less running their own ship right now, and they'll have some staff move over, but it'll all be like secondary and like support staff, not necessarily like the lead staff. I think the lead staff that's currently running the game for Cyberpunk right now, some of those positions will be mixed around or moved around possibly, but they'll be focusing on the expansions. And I have a nagging feeling that I think that they're going to end up doing more expansions than what they think they are right now, just because of how successful that model has been recently. But they may wish to just go straight into making a Cyberpunk 2079 or something like that, bumping it up to do the next game, right? So it really depends. It really depends. I think right now we can't call it too much because there's so much in flux right now. We've got the new generation of consoles. We've got we've got this as a whole new IP entering the marketplace. Right now, I think there's a lot of things that are up in the air, and we also don't know where the winds of like the mass gamer appeal is going to go. So that's the other thing that we just don't know yet, but we will know at some point soon. So,
yeah,
true. Well, yeah, trends change, especially now, all the time. It's like people like this, but ultimately people don't know what they like. You give them something, and then they kind of decide if they like it or not. I mean, they can have some ideas, but in it's always difficult to appease everyone. It's impossible.
Caesar asks, "Is there anything about the new subterranean tunnels of Night City, like the sewers and the bomb shelters, the people who live there and the things that they do?" This is a very good question because this is something that we had been expecting and hearing about as far as the original design concept of having like these kinds of like areas to be really explorable, but I believe that just due to gaming constraints and the fact that we haven't seen it at all, I suspect that we're not seeing that area, and that really the the area outside of Night City is more or less taking place on this. But again, not for sure.
Well, then let me interrupt you here because we've seen images of the subterranean parts that were of the corporate center that was destroyed by the bomb. In fact, the subterranean part with the remains of the Arasaka Towers. We've seen a picture of that.
We have?
The thing is that, yes?
Yeah, it was in the style trailer. The Arasaka Memorial.
Oh, okay, that one.
Park,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the one hand, I mean, original concepts of Cyberpunk, we saw certain art pieces ages ago seemed to use the third edition of the pen and paper game, which was discontinued and substituted with Cyberpunk Red. So the underground part of Night City was something that in the third edition was very important because the Night City was rebuilt entirely without destroying 100% of what was below. So you had the old city that was below the new city. Mm-hmm. And this in Cyberpunk Red is not explained. That is the thing that happened. They rebuilt the city. The only place that was problematic was the city center. Well, the ruins were radioactive and they threw them to the sea. And that's the only part that we saw that has, an underground part that is on the style of this original idea of third edition. This, as the comment says, where we also have sewers and all that, but this is a different concept. One thing is an old city, a destroyed old city below the new city, and sewers and these things in the style of those eggs. The people that live there are homeless. If there is one thing that you have in Night City, is homeless people.
Mm-hmm.
So you can expect them everywhere.
So I mean,
Because there are no shark people anymore. That's discontinued.
I really want there to be massive giant ruins that you can just go into and explore for hours and hours and hours and hours. Like, a good dungeon is probably one of my favorite things. So yeah, I mean, I would hope so, but I haven't seen any like heavily marketing on that, and I haven't seen anything that really looks like that within the gameplay that's been put out yet. So I've been kind of like my hopes for that have been kind of cooled a little bit, but at the same time, I'm not saying that that's gonna mean that it's gonna be bad. It's just it's gonna be less of that particular thing and more of like, other places to go. So I don't know. We'll see. I hope I'll be pleasantly surprised. Yeah.
True. I mean, multiplayer is going to kind of continue the franchise a lot while they're working on their next game. I mean, single player, of course, yeah, absolutely, but multiplayer as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because if honestly they're gearing up like it's gonna be something bigger, this doesn't look like something small. I don't know. I might be wrong, but all of these preparations and assets in place, I expect something big in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see though.
How many people typically work on like a AAA multiplayer game at one time?
It entirely depends. And it also like their success changes drastically as well. Like, there are large teams of 1,000 or more people that have made games that have really bombed, and then there's other games that have been made by. I mean, there's one of the hottest currently like growing MOBA games right now is made by a team of 3 people. I think it is. There's 3 or 4 people, and
That's crazy.
there's a whole bunch of other games. One of the best. A bunch of like top up and coming games have teams of less than 20 people right now, and again, it just you do get a lot of bloat when you become a giant corporation, and you do get a lot of like running things around in circles when you're working with a small team with an incredibly small budget. You are basically you're basically sitting at this point where it's like you have very very little. You have very, very small amount of money and time to play with, so you agonize over design decisions. You test them out in your head. You dream about them for weeks and weeks and weeks. Then you finally pull the trigger. You know that you don't have a lot of chances to change the thing once it's going, right? So because there's more thought put into it, you get a little bit less development time. Whereas other companies, especially we know that this CDPR does this, is that you'll have CDPR come out with an idea, and they'll make it, and then they'll test it for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then they'll scrap it because they don't like it.
Yeah.
And you do lose a lot of development time there, but you also get you also do get probably the best outcome that a corporation can create when you're doing something like that versus something where they're too worried about throwing away work that they've done, right? Because well, just fix it. And I mean, an example of this that I would give would be like Anthem, right? Like, they couldn't just trash that, even though they should have. Like, 2 months before the game came out, they should have just been, you know what, guys, sorry to tell you this, but it's a complete dumpster fire, and it's a total mess. So we're just going to go back to making Mass Effect, and trust me, you would not have been happy with this game. Let's just leave it at that. Same thing with 76. Should have done that too.
Yeah, there's also RuneScape. It's a great example of a small team but a great game, which is technically an MMO.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good multiplayers can definitely happen. It's like, it's just, I don't know. There's many factors which go into that. It's like it's not even only it's that, as Madqueen said, there is that social aspect which is extremely important in a multiplayer. There's let's take WoW for example. A lot of people play WoW because their friends play WoW. So yeah, maybe something similar here. We'll see how they do it. Honestly.
So
Hello?
all right. more chats. Question for Madqueen. Who won your pizza? Madqueen, who won your pizza competition? Have you announced that yet? I totally forgot about that.
Well, yes, actually, the pizza pool had a dinner. Ooh, the pizza pool had a winner, and back in the day, because obviously the winner of the pizza pool was the first release date,
Yeah.
and the person who won is the one that set the birthday of Mike Pondsmith. That was, I don't remember if the day before or the day after of the release. And yeah, it had a winner, but it had a winner ages ago, 1 year and something.
Well, I mean, I'll be ordering a pizza when the game comes out that night because I am not making food.
True.
So,
But yeah, I'm not going to make a pizza pool every time it delays.
yeah.
The pizza pool will be. Is there another delay? Yes. No.
You know, if
Guess
we
the
didn't
release date for next delay.
if we didn't have this whole shutdown thing, one of the concepts that I was throwing around is like, you know, gee, at some point, you know, when a big game is coming out, I just want to rent out like, you know, a giant like office building or something like that. Just have cubicles set up everywhere for people to play the game, and then just have them like, you know, like have a doctor to like write notes where, oh yes, the person's actually, this might actually be better with the whole shutdown thingy. Is like, oh yeah, so and so is going in for you know, 48 hours of intense observation and are unable to work during this time. That might be something.
It would be really funny if we have another delay, and then there are other games that moved their release date to avoid competing with Cyberpunk.
Again. Oh, it's
And you know, and those companies are looking at Red like, make up your fucking mind. Let us release. But yeah, other delay, I hope it's impossible. But the rest of companies would be really pissed if they all move their release date with the expenses that this means to companies, because you know a delay costs money.
Yeah.
So they're all like breathing in a plastic in a paper bag like please no other delay. Let us plan and schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. It's like due to 2020 and other games.
And other games, yeah. But mostly due to 2020, yeah. Sure.
I think bug snipes is the reason why everything is delayed, to be honest.
Right. Fitz and Juicebox, thanks both for your kind comments on that. And I will say that as far as like, you know, of course we'd love more recognition, but we are still fairly small, and you can help us by, you know, hitting the like button, and also by, you know, tuning in every week, but also by telling people who then start talking about the game in the future that we're in this for the long haul. There's a lot of these people that you mentioned that, you know, they're gonna cover Cyberpunk for like a month, maybe 5, maybe 6, maybe a year, like, you know, heavily, and then they're gonna move on. We are going to be doing content here constantly over the next few years, from everything from the multiplayer game to mods to lining up as many post interviews with devs that we can get our hands on. Just tons and tons of stuff, and we have lots and lots of cool plans for the future. And your guys' support really, really, really helps us. So thank you guys so much. We couldn't do this without you guys. You guys are awesome. As a community, we have some of the best community people there are. You know, please join our Discords if you haven't already. Check out some of our Discords. We have we have a weekly book club now. We have a weekly couple weekly rounds of Among Us or Quiplash or stuff like that. So if you're interested in finding an active gaming community, like hit up our Discord, hit up the Discords of LastKnown and Neon and Queen, because we have an awesome community, and we are interested in growing that community as much as we can over the next few years. And we're not going anywhere with Cyberpunk content. We will, you know, our channels specifically will be covering other games like we normally do, but we're not walking away from Cyberpunk. We got lots of plans coming, and if we can, I will be definitely doing a large mod for the game at some point. I'm hoping we're starting to line people up for that. So, yeah.
Cyrus says, I feel like we'll be too busy playing the game to watch YouTube. Well, Cyrus, this is a game that has an insane world building. So maybe you're going to need to be explained a lot of what you see in the game to get any insignificant detail of it.
Or maybe you want to find out what the best My Little Pony mod for the game will be in 8 months, and that's I mean that could make or break your experience. Let me tell you, I chose the wrong My Little Pony mod for Fallout 4, and I gotta say, horrified, nightmare. Haven't been able to install it since then. It's just wow, it's just terrible. So you gotta make sure you pick the right ones. And of course I'm joking, guys.
BJ says, today I have watched McQueen's Cyberpunk 2077 news from over 3 years ago, before the beep. It's been so long. See how much we knew back then. Well, the books were the same except for Cyberpunk Red.
No, it was just the gameplay. Yeah.
Oh, Juicebox, you're right. 100% Thomas the Tank. We're going to have Thomas the Tank. Oh my god, yes! Oh,
Adam Smasher is Thomas the Tank.
Okay. I'm gonna try and mod Thomas the Tank's face onto Adam Smasher. This is going to be just great, and just have like his general like this. I swear this is gonna be super funny. We're gonna try it. We're gonna try it. Oh, we are going to try it. Oh yes.
Well, I think the mod that would be easier to create with Thomas the Tank is the screen of Delaman in the taxi. You got to pick the combat cap and Thomas. Hello, where do you want to go?
That's a good idea too. It always is so fascinating what mods people come up with and the amount of stuff that they can come up with. Like it's so awesome.
Yeah. Actually, I adore the modding community in any game. Honestly, like, geez, because a lot of games that actually, like, let's take Karma for example. Let's take, Stalker for example. Like those games, they were not updated in a very long time, but still, like the amount of mods, Jesus.
Right.
So yeah, I love the modding community, honestly.
You know what? I'll mention this today. Oh darn! Wait. I was gonna mention this last week, but I forgot. One second. LastKnownMeal, have you seen Stalker 2 trailer yet?
Yes. I was just about to answer that. Looks great. Looks amazing.
What are some of the other games? I know there was a couple more announcements made recently, and then yes, we want to do a pool of some kind. We want to do a pool of some kind for the Game Awards. We don't quite know when the if there's going to be any last minute changes or alterations to it, but let us know if you guys want to do like a watch party with the with us. I mean, we're gonna definitely be streaming it, but if you guys want to do like some kind of a what's the word? Like a
collab?
Yeah, like a pool. No, for the community members to like guess to guess awards and stuff like that. Once like for who wins what, right? And start doing that, because that's something that I think we can start doing a little bit more often, is having some more fun with that.
Isn't the Game Awards on the 10th?
Yeah, I think so.
Aren't you gonna be
11th for me, yeah.
gonna be busy playing Cyberpunk?
Probably. Well, I mean, I'm hoping we'll be busy playing Cyberpunk a little bit before that. You never didn't hear that from me.
I mean, I love the time though. From 1 a.m. to 5 p.m. my time. Great.
Mhm.
Amazing.
I am. So Alex Trebek passed away today, just a few hours ago. If anybody's, was that somebody else passed away recently as well, and I wanted to mention them, and I forgot who it was, and I don't have my thing pulled up anymore.
Sean Connery?
Sean Connery, thank you. Yes, that was last week. We lost Sean Connery, and then this week we lost Alex Trebek. So, you know, hearts out to both those fellows because they were, they were pretty awesome people.
Yeah.
I mean, Sean Connery is like one of the few like Scottish actors, that became famous, like really famous with a heavy Scottish accent. I can't even think of another Scottish accent, a heavy accented Scottish actor, like aside from the, isn't the dude who played Qui-Gon Jinn, isn't he Scottish too?
That I wouldn't know.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyways.
Yeah. Sean Connery. Yeah, but the second guy.
But
is
wait.
Hmm?
Are you telling me you don't know more Scottish actors?
Scottish actors with a heavy Scottish accent.
You mean like David Tennant?
Was he?
Or
He's not
James
Scottish.
McAvoy?
He's British. Is it
Scottish? Is the joke about David Tennant being Scottish?
really? No, he's
Yeah.
British.
He's Scottish.
He's okay.
Google it
He is
if you don't
Scottish.
believe me.
Yeah, he is Scottish. He is.
Evan McGregor, Obi-Wan, is Scottish
Chad
as
is
well.
saying
Yeah.
Liam Neeson is Scottish.
Yeah. Well, that's who I was talking about. Liam Neeson with the
Or is he
And
Irish? That's what I'm
James
saying.
McAvoy, also not almost known.
I have the high ground.
This is true. This is true. Yeah. I wonder why they keep hiring Scottish people for Star Wars roles. That's kind of interesting. But anyways, thoughts go out to Alex Trebek. I used to watch him daily growing up, like because like my dad, my grandfather, and I would sit around watching an hour of Jeopardy, and they would try and get all the answers, and I would feel bad when I could only get 90% of the questions each round. I would always feel stupid, but yeah, it's a good memory. But anyways, I don't want to end on that sad note, but is there any other news we want to chat about before we go? We're pushing 90 minutes here. Anything else we want to cover?
Just one small, well, two small things.
Sure.
Two small things that we cannot show. But number one, there is the OnePlus phone. There was unboxing, so if you go to Playable, you can find it. And then there was the commercial, the animated commercial for OnePlus phone, and I believe it's on YouTube right now, so people can watch it somewhere. I don't know. I think someone uploaded it, but it's a really cool commercial for the phone. But yeah, we don't know if it's connected to the story though, because Takemura is also in that. But yeah, might be just something random.
Gives you a little taste of what the anime series would look like from
Trigger.
Studio Trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking
Honestly,
forward to that.
yeah.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. And maybe even live action in the future. Who knows? With this IP, if it reaches.
What happened to that fan made one by Mall Cosplay? Remember the Phoenix Project or something like that? Maybe that's been pushed back since the
Isn't that done?
game has been. Is that out? I saw the trailer for that a while ago. But I haven't seen anything since then.
Yeah. True. It's not out yet.
You guys remember that or?
I do. Yeah, with Mall cosplay.
Yeah.
There was a whole thing in the bar, I believe, or a club or something.
Yeah. Their last update on it was July 1st.
Oh damn.
On Twitter, at least.
Oh damn. Okay. Totally forgot about that.
Anyways, I'm sure it'll come eventually.
Yeah. But yeah, that was all of the bonus stuff we had this week. Slow week though.
Yeah, little slow, and I think it's just that, we're still suffering from news overload on a bunch of other things going on around the world. So yeah, we got. I should mention this. We've got Japan's potentially releasing a bunch of radioactive water back into the ocean. So who had Godzilla for November on the bingo board? Godzilla for November. Anybody Godzilla November? I think I had it. Anybody else? Okay, cool. Oh, 2020 is the most amazing year ever for insanity.
Biggest Cyberpunk boss 2020.
Yeah. I can't wait to delete all the as much of my memories of 2020 and fill all that space up with Cyberpunk stuff as much as I can. So I'm just gonna make room like that. Yep. Just clear out the SSD. Good comments in the chat. I got Mothra for Christmas. Right? I nothing would surprise me at this point. Absolutely nothing would surprise me at this point. But okay. Alrighty. Anything else? What do you guys got going on this week? Neon.
I will be working on part 2 of the lore dump that I posted, I think a week ago at this point. So part 2 of that will be hopefully coming out on Friday. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, that's my major thing for this week that I'm working on.
And Madqueen, you there?
Yes, I am. I am constantly muted
Yeah.
because my cat decided that she wants attention. And she demanding my attention is one thing, but she demanding the attention of how many people is there? 173 viewers. I feel a little bad about it. So next week, Mr. Ruver will be back.
Nice.
Oh. Okay.
Because she has a couple of things to explain about Cyberpunk.
And last known.
More lore videos next week. Starting from Tuesday, so we'll see. Also, we'll see how the news about Cyberpunk come out. So yeah, that's regarding the content.
Alrighty, and we've got a couple things going on this week. We're going to be our streaming schedule and live streaming is going to go through the roof in the next few days here, next week or two. Myself, Moon. Maybe even Ash a little bit. We're gonna be doing a lot more streaming, both on the Discord, but also on YouTube and Twitch and stuff. We're gonna be doing covering a bunch of other additional games. So stay tuned for that. We're boosting that up. I am finally free. I'm finally free. So I am now going to be streaming a ton more. I've got a couple things more to do. But yeah, we're gonna bump that up quite a bit this over the next few weeks here. So it's gonna be great. So alrighty, I think we're good. So yeah. See.
No, before we go.
Yep.
Before we go, shameless promotion. Remember that it's Friday. We have a podcast with Arthurian Games called The World of Cyberpunk 2077 with Arthurian Games. Fridays at 8 p.m. Central European Time, which I believe is 2 Eastern Time. I am not sure.
Yeah,
8 p.m. like this podcast, more or less like this podcast. And the past week, by surprise, Mike Pondsmith just came to say hi. So let's hope that he does the same in the future again.
Nice.
That was great. That was amazing.
Yeah, surprising but
I
great.
joined in. It's like, what? Wait, what?
That's what I said, because I didn't know he was coming. I was just going to put the countdown and to call Jay, and he said, "Hey, can you include Mike in the in the call?" And I was like, Mike like in Mike Pondsmith, Yeah, sure. He wants to come and say hi. Like what? Yeah, well, of course.
We
funny
want
moment.
more Mike. We want more Mike.
That's great. And yeah, I was really busy on the Friday, but I'm hoping to catch that and pop in from time to time. That's I'm looking forward to that. So
Next Friday, the subject will be the collapse.
ooh, the collapse.
Because the collapse, that's the thing that everybody asks about, and I love explaining. But there is information expanded in Cyberpunk Red, and for next podcast, the embargo will be over,
Yay!
Oh yes.
so we can talk about the collapse. Oh my god, the new things that they added in Cyberpunk Red, I just love them.
Alrighty. See you guys next week. Who's hosting next week?
Me.
It'll be Madqueen. Madqueen will be hosting next week. So see y'all then.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye bye.